Hey everybody, welcome back to Bible Fun with the Duns. Today we studied Song of Solomon chapter number 8. And we finished the book. Now, there's a couple of really odd things in here, and that if you don't understand the culture behind them, it can be a little awkward. So let's just start there. Whenever this passage opens, it says, "Oh, that you were like my brother who nursed at my mother's breast." Well, that's awkward, because I'm going to be honest, that's not really what you're going to say to your spouse. No.
And we'll just leave it at that.
That's right. So that's awkward. But here's the thing: you gotta remember the culture that they're in. So men and women in their culture, they did not share like affection publicly. They weren't publicly affectionate. So she's not saying she wants him to be her brother. What she's saying is that women in that society were highly guarded, okay? And so they were only allowed to be in the presence of their brothers or their fathers or near close family. And what she's saying is, she said, I wish that there was no way that people would get like uneasy. She says, when I see you coming down the road, I want to run to you and I want to sweep you up and I want to hug you and I want to kiss you and I want to spend time with you. And what I like about this is, so a lot of this book is indeed sexual, but what it's saying is their relationship is not only sexual. They really had a friendship. Like they genuinely wanted to spend time together. Now it sounds awkward, but what she's saying is, I just want to be with you. And so kind of, I guess the takeaway there is that marriage isn't just about children. It's not just about the physical side. We also ought to be, if we're wise unto the Lord in the way we love our spouses, to nurture friendship in all of this as well. Now, what you'll see is that as this is coming up, as it kind of moves in, now the lady, she's got some advice she wants to pass down, because she's gone through the courtship, she's gone through the engagement, she's gone through the wedding, she's gone through the wedding night, and now they're building a life together. And so now she's saying again, I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, do not stir up nor awaken love until it pleases. And what she's saying basically is that in our lives, until marriage is worth the wait. So be diligent and be pure prior to marriage, and be faithful and self-controlled always. Now,
it's like D group. My D group girls, I lead 9th grade girls, and we meet every Sunday night. And sometimes we talk about hot topics, like what they get to pick the topic we talk about. What does the Bible say about whatever? And a lot of times we want to discuss relationships, whether it's friendships or dating, that kind of thing. And what we talked about just this Sunday is, don't be in a hurry to be finding a boyfriend. They are 14 and 15 and will not be getting married anytime soon. So I'm like, enjoy life. Like, don't be in a hurry to get so serious so soon. So I get that advice.
Yeah. When you get into verse 5, it really gives two sides of their relationship. It says, who is this coming up from the wilderness, leaning upon her beloved? This is probably a public procession. So they're riding in a chariot through the city together, and everybody sees they're in love. And then the next part of this is about them being under the apple tree, which is probably not a public moment, which is probably a private moment. And then in verse 6 it says, set me as the seal upon your heart. I like that, because what it's saying is, the love they share isn't a passing fling. And so the relationship that they're building isn't just based off of the sexual component of their relationship. What they're looking to build is a long-term life together. So they want a commitment until death do they part. And so then it says in verse 7, many waters cannot quench love, nor can the floods drown it. I think what you're looking at here is like, what does it take to test a marriage? So marriages can be tested, they can be tried, they can go through highs and lows, they can go through seasons. But here's what we have to remember in an ever-changing world that doesn't value the marriage covenant as it used to, is marriages don't have to fail. I read a study recently that said, I think if you read most studies like nationwide, something like 50 or 51% of all marriages end in divorce. But what was interesting is that those numbers are a little skewed, because when it says that, what it's saying is a lot of the people that are getting married and then getting divorced are those who've been married and now they're in their second or their third or their fourth marriage. Well, what that does is that kind of brings down the averages, because you got more divorces to add into yeah. And so, but the same, that's right. So in the same study, it says that, like for instance, what do you think the percentage is of married couples who pray together daily? What's the percentage that they go through divorce?
Oh, very low if they pray together.
That's right. So they say that a couple that prays together daily, 1% of those marriages end in divorce.
That's awesome.
So like, this is not a passing fling that they're looking at. And I also like that, like, their experience stands as an inspiration. David Jeremiah says it stands as an inspiration to couples everywhere to seek the beauty and purity of love that leads to a lifelong commitment. There's also another weird part of this, where it's like her brothers are talking about her, and she was like, and they're like, hey, she's young and she hasn't developed yet. We're gonna build a wall around her. If she's a door, we're gonna shut it down. This is kind of probably advice for unmarried people. Her brothers maybe were a little critical of her. Maybe she's the little sister, and their eyes.
It's about their sister. They have another sister who's younger.
Could be.
Well, verse 8.
Yeah. Well, what it's saying is they're overprotective and maybe a little critical of her. And so but when you keep going, the Shulamite herself says that basically I'm grown. I am the wall now. My breasts are the towers. And then it says, then I became in his eyes as one who found peace. Why? Because as spouses, they found their peace, which the Hebrew word is shalom. They found their shalom in one another, not in their identity out in the world, nor even their identity in their own immediate families. So we have this idea that whenever we get married, we're joining two families together. That's not really the picture this is painting. Why? Because a man will leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. The more biblical idea is when you get married, you're not joining two families together. You're creating a new family where those old families are no longer the immediate family. They're still family, but the immediate family is you and your spouse. And that, I think, is beautiful here. And it ends basically with her saying, hey, hurry home. I'm ready for you to get home, which is interesting. What you got?
Okay, so in verses 6 through 14, and I think my notes come from Bible Recap and Bible Project. And I don't know which is which, but because these are notes from the past. It says, set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm, for love is as strong as death, jealousy as fierce as the grave. Its flashes are flashes of fire, the very flame of the Lord. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can floods drown it. And it continues on through verse 14. But it talks about this power and this intensity that love can have. Love can be beautiful and life-giving, or if used or abused, it can be very destructive. And so it's really an interesting look at how love can be.
Sounds like a country song.
Yes, for sure. So my favorite part right here is she mentions the Lord finally, kind of. Its flashes are flashes of fire, the very flame of the Lord. Something I've always wondered in comparison, because God is love, the whole idea of love comes from him. He is the source. I kind of wonder if a non-Christian person can truly love, can love correctly, or, I'm just curious. And of course, that's a question we won't know, but to be fully loved is to be loved by God, and to be loved correctly is to be loved by God. If we look at this as a story between the Shulamite and Solomon at face value, I think it's so important for everyone as we read this with the idea of relationship to realize that love is great, love is important, your spouse is important, but your spouse can never be God. Your spouse can never be that perfect love that you need, that you crave and desire. And so kind of let them off the hook. Yes, be what you want from them as far as love goes, how about you do that for them? You be intentional to show them that love, and then hopefully it'll be reciprocated. But at the same time, we're all humans and we're all imperfect, and so we cannot fully love perfectly. We cannot meet those God needs that all of us have that only God can fulfill. And so there's a quote, and I think it's Tim Keller, and I don't have it written out, but this is our desire as humanity, to be fully known and fully loved. And his quote says something like, to be loved but not known is okay. We like that. But to be fully known and not loved is our deepest fear. But to be fully known and fully loved, well, that's a lot like being loved by God. And only God can fully know us and fully love us. And then finally, what I love about this book, yes, it's been kind of cringy from time to time. That's why I'm going to stay on the side of God's love. That's what I'm going to talk about. But what I love is God continues to show me every single day that he tells us the truth. If someone, thinks that the Bible is sugar-coated, they have not read it. They do not know these stories of these real people, real sinners, used by God. And so I love that God did not shy away from his creation, and he kind of takes it back in ownership, because the world tries to take it and make it into something that it isn't, the way God created it to be. And so in Song of Solomon, God affirms his good design for marriage and for sex. So this book flies in the face of two juxtaposed ideas that the world tells us every single day, whether we recognize it or whether it's like on a TV show or in a song that we're listening to. The world tells us that sex is bad and God's disgusted by it. Like, let's keep it a secret. Let's keep this part of our life hidden and cut off from the rest of our lives. Or that sex isn't a big deal. That's not a big deal. You can be however you want to be. You get to define it. But this book shows us that God cares about it. It is a big deal. It was created intentionally for good and for enjoyment, and God has a plan. Despite all the emotional and spiritual brokenness of a lot of the world's sexuality, our Creator had good things in mind when he invented relationships and marriage and sex. He's not trying to steal our joy by putting certain boundaries around it, but he invented them. And like any inventor, he wants us to know how to use it, how to use what he made so that we don't break it or harm ourselves and others. It is meant to be used within the context of his plan and his good purposes, and that's where it is good. That's where our relationships flourish. And so I'm so thankful for a God that lays it out for us. Pretty detailed.
That's right. And I like how it ends. It ends with her saying, "Make haste, my beloved, be like a gazelle on the young stag, or the young stag on the mountains of spices." She's saying, hurry home. And how does the Bible end? It ends with the bride saying to the groom, "Come, Lord Jesus, quickly come." I like that. All right, so we'll see you tomorrow. We're going to start 2 Corinthians. We'll see you then.
Paul.
Bye.
Bye.